Yeah, it's been a while since I've done a talk. I'm out riding my bike around Sunset, and here we are in front of Casey Bingo, which is, my phone's fucking up, which is actually telling in a way in terms of what I wanted to talk about a little bit. Recently I was watching some 70s commercials. I was remembering some of the jingles, and I did a little research, and it's like, oh, go listen to some of those again, so I did. And it struck me that what they were trying to do was to get you to buy something like, say, candy bar or potato chips or whatever it was they were selling. Something that was where was I? Yeah, habit forming. So anyway, back then you look at these videos, these early commercials, relatively early anyway, these days, and you kind of understand, it gives you a broader picture of how they develop these industries, consumer industries basically, where they don't want to sell you something where it's a one-time purchase. They want you to come back again and again and again and again and again forever. So that's why they designed these so-called foods that way, with the sugar, with the salt, with the fats, and all the other things, to make them as habit-forming as possible. What a beautiful sky. So anyway, habit-forming. And that process has continued to this day. So now what we have is the most habit-forming process, whatever, I hesitate to call it a product, that's ever been created by man, and that is the internet. So what everybody's doing is they're basically spending their whole lives now, especially now with the pandemic and everything, online. Kids don't want to become, from what I hear, go into any of the standard professions anymore. They want to basically start their own YouTube channel and be a personality and and all this stuff. It's like, that might be fine, but it's very strange on the level of addiction, that essentially these marketers, this technology is hacked into people's brains and is steering them. Basically, I mean, you think you're controlling yourself, but So anyway, so that's one subject I wanted to talk about. Another is some stuff I was reading recently about primate culture. Primates are apes, monkeys. Well, they're not monkeys, they're chimpanzees, are the higher forms, and they're the ones that we're genetically similar to, share a lot in common. And what the study said basically was that their society is divided into three groups. The group at the top, you could call the fighters, and they fight for power and rulership. The group below them is large, and it is those who have acquiesced or agreed to the system, so they might support one of the fighters, not support one of the other ones, but basically they support and keep the system going. Then the bottom rung is the defeated, and they basically, perhaps they were a leader or a fighter, and for whatever reason they're defeated. They are there, but they don't really exist in a dynamic sense with the society. So how does that relate to us? Well, we have the same levels. We have exactly the same thing going on, because we have fighters, which is politicians and billionaires. And think about it, how many times have you heard people say, politicians, oh, we have to fight. We have to fight for what we believe in. We have to fight for this. We have to fight for that. So you've got two parties fighting. That's why you have two parties, because, you ever heard of a boxing match with three people? No. So anyway, below that, the acquiesced, the people who go along with it, who support one side or the other, or keep the whole thing going, and the defeated, Basically, all you got to do is drive out, you know, in Columbia here, drive out North Main Street or go over on the other side of the tracks. You know, people who are of color a lot of times, and pretty much defeated. So anyway, strange that we have so much in common with the way these chimp tribes are set up. And it sounds kind of, you know, doomed, a doomsday scenario, or, you know, that we're doomed to live this way. And of course we're not, because our minds can operate outside that quite easily. But why it's so entrenched, partly I think is because it relates to our bodies. So bodies and things like adrenaline, fear reactions and things like that, they can be easily manipulated. Magnolias. Easily manipulated, and you know, the fighters basically want an audience. So, oh, the more we fight, the more they cheer us on. So basically, by being the acquiesced populace and cheering on your fighter, it doesn't help anything and never will. All it does is keep this system going. So that's another subject. Now, yet another subject is the sensate quality of life, which a lot of people, you know, life now is just a screen that is this far away all the time. That's life, you know, and it's visual. There's no smell, there's no sensation, but that's really not what life is. That's why I like going on these bike rides, because not only do I look at things, but I feel things. I feel the wind, I feel the vibration, I feel the bumps. I stop and I feel textures of plants, concrete, stone, all sorts of things. And also, did I mention smells? Yeah, smells too. So you have all these levels that you live on. And, but what happens if you don't appreciate them, you don't use them? They tend to fade. They kind of fade into obscurity. It's like you're not really aware of them, and they just vanish. It's like you might notice a smell once in a while, like, oh, that stinks, or, you know, or their perfume's too strong, or something like that. But anyway, the more that sensory spectrum gets tugged away, a lot of times by technology, what's happening is that life is becoming lessened. The experience itself is being not corrupted, but what's the word? Lessened is good enough for now. So anyway, yeah, I wanted to talk about that, and here I am on my bike ride out in the middle of nowhere, the ghost town basically. Everybody's at home in front of their screen. I haven't been able to do the nature walks lately because they're so overpopulated. People running around, flying by on bicycles and everything else. It's not nature anymore to me. So anyway, back at the van now, load the bike up, go home. And you know, at home I have a room where I spend a good bit of time, and there's no technology allowed. There's no screen in the room, no computer, just books and a lot of quiet. And it makes me sad. You know, it's supposed to be, you know, free country, and you can decide to do what you want to do and everything. It's like, oh yeah, people made the choice to, you know, become internet drones and all that stuff. It's like, but I don't think that's really the truth. I think basically, as I mentioned earlier, it's like people's brains have been hacked. You know, it's very, very savvy and clever the way that they've done it, but it's messed up, very.